Welcome to partialarc.com. Don't do that.
You find yourself in a tavern.
Oh, we should have checked for traps.
I knew he forgot something.
I think I can reason with him.
You killed his father.
Can I have sex with it?
You could certainly try.
I'm gonna touch a sword.
Don't touch the sword!
The child is evil, right?
Obviously.
I could cast Fireball.
Always cast fireball.
All right, roll for it. Welcome to Friday Night Quests. I'm your host, Jay Jones. This week we have a special Aftermath episode for our most recent installment of The Adventures of Gormo. I'll sit down with Mike and we'll talk about the design of the adventure and some of the details that might not have come to light. So let's dive in to that conversation. All right, I'm sitting here with our Dungeon Master for our Gormo adventure, Mike Christensen.
That's me, I'm Mike Christensen. I'm the Dungeon Master for the Gormo adventure.
Now, here in our special Aftermath, we're going to kind of go through some questions that I have. And we'll talk a little bit about the adventure and where it came from and some of the things maybe we missed, because I know there are some things that didn't exactly come to light that we can always talk about.
That's true.
Now, my first question, the most pressing question that I'm sure everybody has on their mind is, why did you kill Rex Winters?
That's actually, it's funny because that was a part of the adventure almost immediately.
I know, because that was like one of the... You didn't ask that you were going to kill him, but you asked me, you're like, real quick though, are you going to do anything with Rex Winters in the future?
Do you mind if I use Rex Winters and you may not get him back in like new condition, as I believe how I phrased it?
I know, but I was just like, oh, like maybe he's beat up or he loses another eye or he'll have a double eye patch. But you're like, no, he's just dead.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be a bold sort of opening because I knew it was going to be a noir story that I wanted to open with a murder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it basically
it's the noir
it's
opening.
the conspiracy moment. It's the the Game of Thrones opening. It's the this guy died. What was he investigating?
Right.
You know, and I knew I wanted that trope in there from Jump Street. So I knew, and also he's such a powerful character that it made sense for him to not be available to you as a resource.
We should actually recap, what is Rex Winters, actually?
Rex Winters, well, you are the one who created him.
Very
you know
true.
better than I would, but he is the son of a genie.
Yep, which are called...
Genasi. I
Yep.
believe he is a Genasi.
Genasi, yeah. And he had one eye missing, that he had an eye patch, and his other eye could basically read truths and lies that people would say. So he had some special abilities unto himself, but definitely a powerful investigator and just a powerful character unto himself.
And so it was important to get him out of your capacity.
Right.
Get him away
You can't
from...
leverage Rex Winters in this adventure.
Yeah, before we knew who was going to be in the adventure, because I knew that I was planning to make this an adventure with returning guests coming back, especially because we knew that Hillary was still... her character, Rialma, was still in Shimmer City. It just only made sense if we were going to do another Shimmer City story for her to be there. And then as we got to the point in the story where it made sense for us, because we were taking our hiatus as the Velvet League for New Year's, even though the episode came out much later than that, it just made sense to bring in Daniel and Alison, because we'd established their characters and they were such a big part of the story at that point.
And it was interesting, this is actually the first time we've brought in multiple special characters into a side adventure.
Yeah.
Like we had when we did Stu Wellington's Spooky Halloween Stories, which is All Ravens Eve? All Ravens Eve?
Yeah.
Yeah. When he was doing that special, we had, myself, we had you, and then we had just some friends that we like to do with our D&D group on the side. But this is the first time we actually took in-show characters and kind of brought them together like an all-star special.
That was very, very deliberate. That's what I was planning for this one, again, from the get-go. Because the last time, when we did our first Gormo adventure, the first Adventures of Gormo back in, beginning of 2016, it was turning the tables on you, on the producers, because it was Jay... Nick and Andrew as the players, and then I ran it. And I just sort of wrote it on my own with the help of a friend of mine, Daniel Lofgren, who was also a contributor in the comments of How We Roll. So that was kind of fun. But for this one, I actually took input from, I think it was Andrew and I were on a plane back from one of the conventions last year.
It might have been like to Gen Con or something like that.
I think it was on the way back from Gen Con. I remember picking his brain and being like, here's what I have. What do you think? And he gave me some good advice. He helped name a lot of the characters. Dushan was one of Andrew's names.
Nice.
But yeah, I knew that like I wanted it to be Gormo and the All-Star Pals, basically.
It was very, very, very fun. And I know a lot of times when I Dungeon Master for the games, I don't expect the group to do certain things that they end up doing. Was there anything that came up in this game that you didn't expect us to do, and what did you see us doing instead?
The Oath Bow didn't exist.
Oh, right.
The Oath Bow side quest.
You mean the Oath Bow, almost another adventure?
Now, I was prepared to run a little bit of it, but like I knew... So basically what happened was that there was just too good of an investigation roll, but I didn't feel like just creating a new item out of whole cloth, and I felt like +1 bow is a little underwhelming, and I was
Especially
just like,
at this level.
yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you guys are really high level, so like what is there? And the Oath Bow, which is a crazy powerful magical item, it's really, really good. But I was looking at it, and I was like, this is way too valuable. And then I sort of painted this little corner. Didn't paint myself into the corner. I just painted this little corner. I was like, if you guys want, this exists, and you guys can try to get it. And I don't want to say what would have happened had you tried, because we may end up revisiting the Oath Bow at some point. We may end up revisiting
Oath Bow side adventure?
Hector Salazar at some point. But it would have involved... I know a few opponents that would have presented themselves in the once you guys actually got into the mansion.
It sounded like, in the way that it was described, like a bit of like almost like a side adventure, if the side adventure was like the Tomb of Horrors.
Yeah. It was going to be challenging. I'll say that.
I imagine it wasn't just going to be breaking the window and like, you know, punch a golem and then like leave.
No, it would have been more difficult than that. And as you guys were talking more, it was like evolving in my head. So once you guys actually got there, I had an idea of what would happen if you guys broke in. And then I didn't deviate from that. So it's like when there was the alarm spell, I was like, yeah, no, this place is alarmed. This place is rigged. There are traps. There are monsters. This is you guys can try. But I knew that would end up being pretty much the whole adventure.
Yeah, basically the adventure turned into, you know, stuff's going down in Shimmer City, but what's going on with this Oath Bow, guys?
Hey guys, sometimes that's D&D though.
Yeah.
Like, had that happened, like, we would have...
The Adventures of Gormo in Shimmer City about a Oath Bow.
Yeah. As for the rest of it, it was pretty much in line with what I was expecting. I actually came up with 2 trajectories that the adventure could have taken.
Okay.
You either could have investigated the asylum, or you could have investigated the Church of the Grand Tapestry, which was a late addition to the adventure. That was one that I came up with about less than a week before, I think.
Okay.
I added the Grand Tapestry. I added the elements of the Weaver, being the title of this figure, being the sort of, again, taken from the classic tropes, and one of my favorite movies is Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and the old there's 2 cases but they're connected thing, even though in this one they're presented as one case. You know, basically the idea is that that's what Rex was dealing with. He was dealing with this investigation of Dushan and Reinhardt. He may have also been investigating the Church of the Grand Tapestry and found out there was a connection between them.
Right. But
there were other monsters you could have faced had you gone to the Church of the Tapestry.
What was one of the monsters we missed that was at the Grand Tapestry?
So it would have been the equivalent of the fight with the Orderlies and with the Intellect Devourers. It would have been like the same challenge rating, but there was a Drow mage.
Whoa.
There were, I think, 1 or 2 flesh golems. I don't remember exactly. Which is interesting because the flesh golems have an ability. I don't know if, I didn't know if Stu had lightning bolts. I didn't know if Alison was going to take lightning arrow, but they gain health back if they take lightning damage. Also, flesh golems.
Because they're basically like Frankensteins.
Yeah. Flesh golems also
the monster of Frankenstein.
Thank you.
So many people losing their mind right now.
That's actually one that I don't catch and I always get wrong.
Real quick, I can interject, but there's a great line that an author I really like and an artist named Chip Zdarsky, which we've talked about a lot on our other podcast called Because Comics.
Yeah.
Where he posted this one image one time, and it was like from the edited section of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It was on the last page, and as he was floating out of sight, the monster turned and said, "By the way, if you call me Frankenstein, I'm totally fine with it."
I've seen that one. It's really good.
It's a really great bit that I was like, you know what, at this point, guys, like, come on.
We knew what it means. It's a family name.
We know what it is.
But the other thing is flesh golems have an ability when they hit, or not even an ability, a condition that hits them when they hit a certain health, where they just start lashing out randomly.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is really funny. They'll attack whatever's nearby. And
go into a rage.
Essentially, yeah. So it would have been interesting. Also, the Drow knew poison spray or poisonous cloud, a poison-based spell that was like gonna affect the whole sphere and like the whole battlefield. It would have been in a church. I guess I should back up a little bit because it was going to be in a church of Arathis, who's the goddess of civilization, because she's basically based on Athena. So had you gone there, you would have seen that there was a lot of like gear imagery that had been removed.
Oh, cool.
Because gears and technology are part of her oath, and there were names for all the worshippers of the Church of the Grand Tapestry that were there, and they would have like escorted you to the back that was under construction, and that's where the monsters would have ambushed you, and there would have been a tunnel leading down. There was also another one of those demon things, different type though. So we should talk about this because the monster that you guys fought at the beginning and at the end is called a Yogoloth.
Yeah.
And they're in the way back of the monster manual, and it's a specific one. It was the Nyaloth, or the Nyaloth, I believe, who's the more sort of Hulk-looking one.
Beefy beat stick one.
Yeah. There's another one, if you want to pass me the monster manual, because I don't remember the name of the one that you would have fought in the temple, but it was the one that looks like a fly or an insect. And that was very deliberately because it's also immune to poison damage. So basically the Drow Mage could have just cast poison on the whole room, and then the only ones affected would have been the party, as long as he stayed out of the path. Yeah, the Mesoloth is that one.
Oh, cool.
And there would have been other magical items that would have come from that as well. So, for example, the Mesoloth has a trident. I decided that would be a magical weapon, and that way, if you guys killed it, then
I could become God of the Sea.
You could have gotten it, or I know that Daniel's character would have been proficient with it. And there's another magic item, and I don't remember what it was. It was a potion of some kind, but I don't remember what it was.
Okay, neat.
But yeah, there was this basically other way you could have gotten a lot of the same information that you got through the Reinhardt Asylum.
Now, I have another question. So either one of those paths would have taken us down underground, but what about those rat men? Now, did those rat men or those were-rats, sorry, not rat men, but were-rats, did those were-rats have another, like, piece? Like, was that supposed to be a potential fight? Or
No, the rat men were supposed to bail you out of the fight with the troll.
Oh, okay.
So the troll fight was going to happen down there. We were just cutting low on time. And also, I just started playing a D&D game with Hillary that we're running through Tyranny of Dragons, and there's a four-armed troll in that. It was going to be a four-armed troll.
Oh, cool.
And I was going to use a lot of the same rules where, like, there's the optional feature of trolls where if you cut off an arm, it, like, keeps going and keeps moving.
Like the arm can be punching you on the ground?
Yeah. Any limb you cut off, there's a chance that you will cut off a limb and then it will keep going.
Oh, geez.
If a certain type of damage is dealt by a certain amount.
That's neat.
But we got to the point where I was like, I don't need another encounter here. I need to get you guys to the final fight. And I knew the rat men knew the way there, and it was a fun sort of social interaction for them to have already taken it down. Because basically, if you guys were after, I think, a round or two into the troll fight, the rat men were going to show up and start dealing fire damage if you guys hadn't figured out to do that. Because trolls don't regenerate if you do fire damage, but otherwise they regenerate health at the start of each of their turns.
Really? Do they regenerate like 10 or 15?
10.
Yeah.
10 hit points at the end.
That can get really annoying if that compounds turn after turn after turn.
Yeah, I just, this week that we're recording this, played a game with the Valkyries, my girl group, where they were, I didn't tell them exactly how much, but the troll was regaining health every turn, and after a few turns they were like, we should go,
we gotta leave
we
at this
don't
point.
need anything from this guy, we just need to get him away from us.
And he's just punching forever.
But they're lower level characters than you guys were. You guys probably could have done the job, and Daniel knows the game really well. He would have known that trolls,
He might have metagamed and been like, well, maybe we should put him near fire.
I don't even know if it's metagaming with all the knowledge that
yeah,
bards
I guess
have.
that too, but like bards would be like, yeah, I know about trolls, like let's just burn this dude.
Yeah, he would know a lot of stuff about that, like in and out of game.
That makes sense.
So it would have made sense. It's just a matter of, did you guys have fire? And if you guys didn't, then the rat men were going to come in. The were-rats were going to do fire damage with like flaming arrows and things.
And then it would weaken him, and we'd know like, oh, fire good.
Fire good, and also it stops him from healing. So that basically cuts off that path.
And then we can just pummel him down.
Then you guys can do a lot more damage to the troll.
Neat. And I have a question though about the whole adventure itself. Obviously, we're kind of moving linearly through the story, but we get to the end and we meet the big bad boss, right? The Weaver. At what point when you were designing the adventure did the Weaver make it into the story? Did you frame the story around an aboleth?
Yes.
Did you frame it around an aboleth? You started from there.
I started from there.
Okay.
There were a few things that I wanted to include, and the aboleth was one of them.
Now, what intrigued you about the aboleth?
I've never run an aboleth before, but I really like it. It's one of the first monsters alphabetically in the book. It's like I think it is the first. It's the first one the Aarakocra, the Birdman, is the first.
Yeah, Aarakocra, which was in season 2 of Velvet League. But you know what's funny? I've seen the aboleth a few times in the Monster Manual, and I have not read any of the lore about the aboleth.
Yeah.
So like when you started describing it, and I was like, wait, I know what this thing is. And then when it became apparent that these are like gods from like the old universe or something like that, I was like, like, whoa, these things are way radder than I thought they were.
The thing is,
I thought this was just like a shitty squid that swims around in the ocean.
And the reason they seem that way is because they're very low challenge rating.
Yeah.
Like, they are not... The reason that you guys, steamrolled over that fight is because you guys took control of the terrain. You guys... Those eagles saved your butts.
Oh, yeah.
Because without them... And also, I mean, the fact that the force cage just completely incapacitated
Oh
that,
my god, the force cage was
the
very
Nyaloth
clutch.
was very, very good for you guys as well. Because the Mind Flayer wizard got one turn, and it was just like, I'm looking at his spells, I'm like, there is not enough here to do anything. I realized Mind Blast actually could have done some stuff to you guys, but like afterwards. But I was like, let me take a risk on confusion, because maybe that'll do something.
I mean, there's a reason why at this level you see a lot of monsters with legendary actions. Because
Yeah.
you need to put more damage in between turns. Because if you're like a wizard type character, like one of these Mind Flayers, you're just going to get pummeled into the ground too fast, too hard.
And the Aboleth has legendary actions, and it has layer actions, but this is my first time using either. So still getting used to them, and I probably... If I were to do it again, I probably would have punched up the layer actions a bit, but not even that much. It was just the problem with that not enough of you guys who were in the water, and it wasn't hurt yet. It's got powers like on its turn or on the layer actions, it can like drain the energy from someone who's charmed by it. But once you guys were fighting it, once it had actually taken damage, no one was charmed anymore.
That's true.
So it was just a victim of circumstance. It was just because it was meant to function in a larger fight, but because you guys divided their forces so well, because the way I was picturing that fight was that. They would see you coming. The Nyaloth, the demon, would fly towards you guys and engage your ranged people, while the caster does damage from the roof, and then anyone who tries to cross gets ambushed by the Aboleth.
Right, so you'd have us basically pincered from all sides.
But the eagles really did a nice job of that. But what made that fun, though, was that it ended up being a much more social scene.
Yeah.
Because it became about Gormo...
Being
and
evil, coming
and
up
his
to
weird,
kill.
like, maybe he has a full psychotic break.
Yeah.
Which I was so happy with. I don't remember who started it. It might have been Daniel, who said, like, oh no, he's fully split now. Playing in character, not knowing that Gormo had been charmed, thought, oh my god, Gormo went into a fugue state. He is fully insane, and we have to deal with this. And everyone just really played into the role-playing of that, and I was so happy to just sit back and be like, the Aboleth isn't going to do anything right now, because it's in its best interest to let you guys think he's insane.
It actually worked out really well to be with that character, specifically Gormo. If it was anybody else, it wouldn't have played socially as well, but the Gormo bit did work out really, really well. To be like, because he did have a bit of a mental break, which is why he, when he wears the mask, speaks in that voice and has almost a completely different personality. But you're right, it did work out strangely really well.
It was so great that like you were the one who went underwater. And like there were a couple of moments that could have taken you out of the adventure early on. If the intellect devours, had eaten Stu's brain,
true,
he just would have shown up, he just would have gotten up and started attacking you guys, because there would have been a person's brain, his brain would have been missing and replaced by an intellect devourer. And
then we would have had to kill Stu.
Well, if there is a way to banish it out of the body, but then you have one round to get his brain back, which, guess what? There's not a spell that does that.
There's not a retrieve brain spell?
Regenerate could do the job,
but it
takes way longer than that. It takes like an hour and not a round.
We would basically
I think it takes a minute, but it's not enough time.
We would still have to basically find Izzy and do like a resurrection spell or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Stu would be dead. If he had died that early in the adventure, that would have been crazy.
Also,
the
horse totem that you guys found.
You were so bummed.
No. I was totally fine that it didn't happen, but there was a chance.
Oh yeah, we got to talk about this.
So basically, the item that I picked for you guys, there were two items that were in the office of Dushan. One of them was the feather token, which you can use as basically an animated whip, which I was like, all right, maybe they'll use it, maybe they won't. And the other was the horse token, which Ysolde still has. And I actually don't know Ysolde's alignment. I don't think we've decided it yet. I don't think she's good aligned. I think she's neutral, so it probably would not affect.
She might be lawful neutral.
That's what I think she is. Maybe she's true neutral. I don't remember. I think we did talk about it on the day. But the token, the figurine of wondrous power, turns into a nightmare steed. A flaming horse.
Yeah. Which we got to experience in the Stu Wellington adventure on the island.
Stu's Scary Stories, yes.
Yeah, there was a nightmare horse that showed up.
If a good person gives commands, there is a 25% chance that it will ignore the orders. And not all of you are good aligned. So already the chances of this happening are pretty slim. There's, because Rialma's neutral. I believe Stu is good and you're good. So there was I don't remember, Stu might be neutral as well, but I knew you were good aligned. So I was like, all right, it has to be in either Gormo's hands or maybe Stu, but I don't think Stu's going to take it, especially when Stu said he had his own horse. So I was like, all right, then very unlikely that it's going to end up in anyone's hands. But if it does end up in Gormo's, then there's a chance. Then there's a 25% chance it won't obey the orders. And if you try to mount the horse while it is disobeying your order...
Yep, this is the key part.
It will... And I'm going to actually just grab the book and read the description exactly. I almost don't want to spoil this in case it comes up, but I don't think it will.
I don't think it will.
Figurine of Wondrous Power for the horse, the Obsidian Steed, becomes a nightmare for up to 24 hours, fights only to defend itself, can only be used again after 5 days, has a 10% chance.
Yeah, but
that it will ignore your orders, including a command to revert to figurine form.
Oh,
so if you try to make it go away...
Man, I'm still a horse forever.
Well, for 24 hours.
Yeah, for 24
It will go away eventually. If you mount the nightmare while it is ignoring your orders, you and the nightmare are instantly transported to a random location on the plane of Hades, where the nightmare reverts to figurine form. Now, I didn't hope that would happen, but the sick part of me in my head that gave you the item was like, that could happen, though.
It's true.
And had that happened, it just would have been like, all right, well, Gormo went to hell, and the rest of you guys have to fight an aboleth, a mind flayer, wizard, and
now our next adventure is
demon.
Gormo in hell.
And I should talk a little bit more going back to, Gormo in hell would have been the final.
The final adventure of Gormo.
Yeah, exactly. Gormo in limbo, technically, but we would have just said, no, you're going to hell, because you got to do Hellboy in hell.
Of course.
As for the monsters, so the aboleth was there from pretty early on, because I wanted to play with that creature, and I like the subversion of the, he's the character who hates, or they, the aboleth is this as a race, they hate the gods. Mm-hmm. And we'd had the elements, Rex was living out of a temple, so there was the idea that there were these derelict temples in town. It's the idea that someone was closing down temples. That's where the Church of the Grand Tapestry came from. The Weaver connection was absolutely accidental, because I'd forgotten that they're
called Wish Weavers?
That they were called Wish Weavers.
So when you said the Weaver, like Rialma and
what I did was I handed, because I knew that Gormo and Rialma had been living in Shimmer City. Mm-hmm. So I handed each of you a card that said there is a Church of the Grand Tapestry that's been acting recently. This is just things that you would have known being in town. And these are the things that they have been doing. These are the things that they've been shutting down churches and temples and things. And they refer to someone known as the Weaver. And as soon as we handed it to Hillary, she was like, oh no, I know what's going to happen. Because she thought oh God,
it's another Wish Weaver.
The genie is coming back, or there's another genie or something going on. And it was an entirely accidental misdirect and red herring, which again, just one of those happy accidents. I'd re-listened to the episode. Mm-hmm. So I think it was subconscious. I knew that we called them Wish Weavers. I just totally forgot about it when I was writing that down. So it just ended up working out really, really well.
That's awesome. Because it was definitely a misdirect for us. That was oh wow, there's either the Daddy Blaze is coming back, or there's another genie in town.
Yeah, someone's stepping into his role essentially, but no, total misdirect.
Just an ancient creature that hates gods.
And this creature is also from the elemental plane of water. Mm-hmm. And I like the idea that he would be very at home in Shimmer City,
where it's always raining.
And
it is interesting because it is opposed to Daddy Blaze, who was a genie of, fire. It was what are they called?
Ifrit.
Ifrit. They're all about fire. Their powers are based around that. So it is interesting to have a reverse of that, so to speak.
Again, very, very much deliberate to have a difference there. The other two major villains were the Nyaloth, mm-hmm. which is the demon monster, which was originally not meant to fight you guys at the beginning. He's going to cut off Rex's head and fly away.
And just leave, but then we managed to catch him.
And what happened too was I forgot that he has advantage on saving throws against spells, because, I forget things that Sweeney can do, and I've played that guy in 14 adventures at this point.
That's true.
I've never played a Nyaloth before. I was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot. He should have had advantage on those things. But it was fine for you guys to have that fight at the beginning. It didn't mess up the story in any way, because his goal, it just meant that I had to add another one, but I knew that there were other demons being summoned. I had another one waiting if you guys went the other route. So the thing about the Yugoloths is that they are summoned, and they are mercenaries, essentially. They're demon mercenaries.
Right.
And they will fill out tasks, but if they're summoned into service, they hate it. They hate serving in the role where they are bound to service. So
That seems so odd.
So they are going to take whatever means they can to free their service, to end their service, which means that was why he waited until he was in a public place to kill Rex, because he wanted him to be in a space where people would then investigate. If you guys hadn't attacked him on his first turn, he would have reached in and taken the notes and like torn them in half. So you would have had an obvious clue that he's leaving.
Hey guys, come. So interesting. So he also had an agenda of his own.
Yes.
To get this Aboleth and to free himself from the Mind Flayer and things like that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
The other element, and also I knew that there had been demonic activity in Shimmer City because we established as much.
When was that
in
established?
Season 8, when the guy turns into a demon. I played with it being that guy that like if you killed the monster, it would turn into like that old shopkeeper or
and
whatever.
like the stone would roll off his head?
But I ended up cutting that. It was like,
oh, that would have been great.
I thought about like having it be a stone on his forehead, and if you break that, he becomes just a guy, or the demon flies away, is freed, or whatever. I'd change that to the binding tattoos on its shoulders, which is if you destroy those, they each had an armor class and they each had a hit point value. If you destroyed each of the creature's tattoos, it would have been freed of service.
Oh, and then it would just pieced out and be like, thanks guys, I'm going back to hell.
Yeah, probably.
Flown away.
The other thing, the wizard Mind Flayer, was Derek the Mind Flayer.
Oh, it was Derek?
It was Derek the Mind Flayer.
That's right. I think we joked about this afterwards, that, yeah, we've heard about Derek.
I wasn't joking.
I mean, I know you weren't. No, but...
because what happened was, in Season 7
it was
of the
revealed.
Velvet League Adventure, there's a reference made to Derek the Mind Flayer. And then in Season 8, totally unrelated, someone's talking to a magic stone, and you say, quiet, Derek. And I was like, all right, well, Derek the Mind Flayer is working out of Shimmer City, so that's why he has that ink that he's been using to tattoo onto creatures. He's using it to bind things to his service, which is why he has this ink that's meant to bind to people's skin, the creature's skins. So the idea there is that he thinks he is in control of the Aboleth, when, in fact...
Derek is not.
He's very much being manipulated by the creature's desires. Yeah, maybe they're in line with each other. Obviously, the Mind Flayer did not live long enough to
tell his plan.
Speak, and I wish I had done some sort of... Afterwards, when I was like... thinking about the adventure, I was like, he should have done some sort of like, fools, you will rule the day. You know, like I wish
you ran into Derek the Mind Flayer.
He should have monologued a little bit just to get some of that out there in canon. But
Mike, it is so strange to have a villain be well thought out and introduced in the show of Velvet League and not have enough time to explain their position or feelings.
It's weird. It's a
completely unique,
weird move. But you know, I don't think of Mind Flayers as particularly laconic, so I had to sort of, or particularly verbose, rather. I do think of them as laconic, so I didn't really think about him doing a villain monologue until after the adventure was done. I was like,
oh, right.
I was like, oh, he could have done that. That would have been so fun. Oh, well. I didn't have to do the voice, which I'm glad for. Because,
well, they speak in telepathy, so...
Well, no, but when we first heard Derek's voice through Horace, through Jeremy, rather, not Horace, Jeremy going, Derek wishes more from you. I'm like, I'm glad I didn't need to do a voice like that, because I would have had to if Derek had spoken. But then you guys just killed him super hard.
We did. Poor Derek.
It was funny, though, because I knew when I was designing the adventure there were more encounters than are usually in one of our Friday Night Quests adventures. And no real reason for that other than there were certain benchmarks that I wanted to hit.
Beats that you wanted to hit.
Yeah, so the Intellect Devourers was one of those. Where
now, did you plan on us training all of those men via Sudoku?
I didn't know that Rialma would have.
See, that was the thing that I was wondering about, because like when we gave kind of that leeway, it seemed like to be like, oh yeah, Rialma, now you're like more powerful in Shimmer City. You actually have like men and like people that work for you,
which makes sense because she's a level 16 rogue.
Yeah, she would have like basically a network, right? And we've already established that the shadow lines run underneath Shimmer City, so like clearly there's a lot of shady people that work there.
Yeah,
but I wasn't sure, but it seemed like a certain point, like we started like just taking that way out of control, where we were like, no, she has like a few men. Also, she has an army of like henchmen under her that we can train.
I did make her roll to see if she would bring 10 with her, but she rolled well. I was like, all right, you can bring 10. But guess what? The corrupt city guard is there too. Like, yeah. Hey, man.
Damn city guard.
We got other fights to get to. That's all it was.
I think there's a certain point too, like not even like trying to metagame where like the guards were fighting outside and like we took down the people inside at first, and then it was like, we gotta go outside and save those guards. It's like, guys, we've got like probably a lot more stuff to do in this place.
Yeah,
we're not gonna go in the room and like find the boss being like pulling the controls like Wizard of Oz, like, oh, you found me, meddling kids.
Yeah,
but little did I know it was gonna be like, you know, an ancient anti-god creature that was like below the city, but that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
So Shimmer City, round 2.
And this was also not the first. I realized after when I was writing the adventure that in the first Adventures of Gormo as well, the evil creatures living out of a temple.
Yeah.
So there was definitely a precedent set accidentally, or not even accidentally, but like this theme when temples are vacated,
Things will roost and take root in them.
things will roost and sort of, deconsecrate the area just by their
Well,
presence.
now I'll know if we ever have a Legends of Gormo Adventure 3 that if there's an old temple somewhere, we'll go there immediately.
If we do a Gormo Volume 3, if you guys survive, it's probably going to be an Oathbow heist.
Yeah, it probably will be. That's true.
Because I think Gormo, whether he knows it or not, he's very fond of Ysolde.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I liked that subplot of, I don't think that Ysolde thought Gormo was sweet on her. I don't think Gormo thinks that he's sweet on her. But certainly Rialma and Stu
thought
Gormo was sweet on her.
it was an interesting subtext that was coming through in some of those scenes, but we'll see where any of that goes.
Well, they're now both...
On their way back.
Yeah.
They're on their way back to the Kemp Estates, which I wonder what's been happening at the Kemp Estates in her absence.
Well, I guess we'll find out. It was funny, and actually we didn't talk about this in the last adventure.
Yeah?
We forgot to talk about this in the aftermath.
We did.
We should talk about it real quick. This is jumping back to season 14 when we fought the Rakshasa. The
Rakshasa clawed at Isolde's horse.
and also at Marcus.
Yo, that's true.
And we had to basically figure out, like, why aren't these people dead then? Because what happens is the Rakshasa has an ability with its claws where it basically keeps you from being able to take a long rest.
Yeah,
because
you
you're
just
kept
get-
awake with the nightmares and the visions of the monstrous thing that just happened. And as a result, you take levels of exhaustion, and after 6 days, you die.
Yeah.
Like, that's just what happens if you don't sleep. Like, I guess you could use Greater Restoration to, like, reverse that and just every day, like, get
Take
rid of
some
your
Greater
exhaustion, but
Restoration.
you just wouldn't be sleeping.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy.
Slowly
because
going
then you're
crazy.
then you're still spending spell slots and you're not getting hit dice back and stuff. So we had to like look at it and be like, okay, who can cast that? And we realized that yes, it's a wizard spell. So
Jiggy Hor could do
Jiggy
it.
Hor could do it. There would be clerics available, which was helpful when poor Gormo got himself in a bit of a situation.
Caught up in that pretty bad curse.
That was another funny thing, is that every time you touch the aboleth, you are hit by the mucus that hit Stu, which is that you can only breathe underwater for 1 hour.
But then that goes away.
That goes away. But
Gormo's does not.
Gormo's can be reversed, can be removed, but it doesn't just end. And the description of it from the book, I'm going to go ahead and flip open. Constitution saving throw, become diseased. The disease has no effect for 1 minute and can be removed by any magic that cures disease. Which is great. You're in good shape. After 1 minute, the diseased creature's skin becomes translucent and slimy. The creature can't regain hit points unless it's underwater, and the disease can only be removed by heal or another disease-curing spell of 6th level or higher.
Which is, man, that is
I mean,
brutal.
if you cast, remove disease at a high-level spell, it's 6th level, then you're fine. But you got to have a high-level caster available. When the creature's outside a body of water, it takes 1d12 acid damage every 10 minutes unless moisture is applied to the skin before 10 minutes have passed.
That's pretty rough. I mean, like, that, like, kills regular people.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
And also it can enslave people, and it can do that like 3 times a day, and it lasts until they are on a different plane of existence.
Wow.
That doesn't... I mean, it ends if they have to make a save if they take damage. But the idea is that there were some people who were being affected by the brains, replacing bodies. But some of those brains were being enslaved.
Wow.
Like that
That
was,
is like Inception enslaving.
And the thing, too, I think that what I decided was that, if the binding ritual was done on someone, the enslavement would not end if the creature took damage. So that, for example, if you fought the little brains, they were probably enslaved by the aboleth, but it wouldn't just end when you dealt damage to them. They wouldn't have to make another save, like Gormo did. So if I'd had this sort of total party kill moment, this is another thing where I'm like, this probably won't happen, but if it does, I had a scenario in my head where you guys are brought unconscious, Ysolde is enslaved, Ysolde is branded and tattooed to make sure that she stays enslaved, Ysolde is sent back to the Kemp Estates.
That would have been a whole different subplot under the course of future adventures with his.
I didn't think it was likely, but that was like, oh man, if that happens, that'd be crazy.
Wow.
And the idea too is that the aboleth basically is trying to extend his control, and basically expand his lair to the entire city. His control, lasts for a certain distance, but the idea is that these brands are helping extend it, and that he is, trying to expand outward from Shimmer City.
And getting a hold of Ysolde and then going back to the Kemp Estates would certainly do that.
Would have been kind of cray-cray. Yeah.
Ooh,
but
the what-ifs of the adventure. But luckily, that didn't happen.
I mean, honestly, if it could have happened to any of you, it would have been terrible.
Yeah.
Getting Rialma branded means that you've got the criminal network on your side.
Oh, yeah, the entirety
Getting
of it.
Stu means you have all those children in that orphanage.
Oh, no.
And getting you is also a way into the
I mean, also
Kemp
Stu would be a
Estates.
way into the Kemp Estates as well with Izzy. So anybody really other than Rialma would have been a pretty easy enter to the Kemp Estates.
I mean, Rialma's been to the Kemp Estates too, though.
True.
If
Very
he
true.
wanted to take that route, he
Don't
could.
know if the guard is probably super happy to let... but then again, now Ysolde knows Rialma. So yeah, I guess either way it would have been bad for the Kemps.
It would have been real bad.
Ooh.
But obviously that didn't happen. Obviously, once you guys split up the fight with those eagles, because it's a deadly encounter if it played out the way I thought it would.
Oh yeah.
But the eagles meant that it didn't, which is totally fine.
Yay!
Because when we got this different sort of ending, and we still got a very bittersweet ending of
With him having to be like in a tub,
Yeah.
like riding in water,
And
or
sort
else
of
he'd be
like-
cured.
sort of having the choice taken away from him.
Yeah.
Because the interesting thing was that there was this hanging question of, is Gormo going to choose to go back to the Kemp Estates? He seemed to decide very quickly, yes. But then you had, Rialma and Stu pushing him and saying, no, make a decision on your own.
Like, be your own man.
Be your own man, make the decision yourself. And then when this happened at the end, it's like, look, there are no temples left. There are no clerics left in town who can do this.
Mm-hmm.
That was very deliberate, like that was what the Aboleth first thing did is like,
Yeah,
I'm
wipe out all this.
like he hates gods and he doesn't want people to have the healing magic anymore, so he's taking those people down.
Right.
So once you got rid of that, once that is removed, there are not a lot of other options for high level spells, but that Gendikraz would have access to it, and
That's
so
true.
that meant. Because we know that his old horse isn't dead and Marcus isn't dead. I mean, he might be by now, but as far as we know, when Ysolde left, he was fine.
Yeah, who knows?
See what happens in season 15 when we record what happens in the after, or the meanwhile, basically.
Yeah, basically.
The cutaway.
Because it is no reveal that season 15 will happen concurrently with the adventures of Gormo.
Yeah, that's what you mentioned to me. So that'll be interesting to see what state they are coming back to.
Yeah. We'll see.
But yeah, it was basically that moment of and I didn't plan it that way. I was trying to use that effect on everybody.
But yeah,
because
that
I wanted
was-
as many people as possible to be affected by that, because it's a fun, weird monster trait.
But it was a perfect, kickoff for him to, hey, you gotta go. You gotta go back.
It was perfect because the dice sort of dictated the story, which was you were affected by this thing, you didn't know what it was, by the effect, so you couldn't know that you were diseased.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be aware of that. You have no way
Of course.
to avoid it. You're not a paladin, so you're not immune to disease. And once you're affected, there's only one route you could go.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Gotta go back to Kemp Estates. So we'll see what that reunion looks like, and if everybody's still there and still fine.
Well,
by the
first
time he
we
gets
got to
back.
see if we can endure season 15.
Yeah. Well,
Otherwise,
we'll see how that goes.
otherwise season 16 might be Ysolde and Gormo getting back and be like, let's go get that oath bow after all.
Seems like everybody's dead. Oh, man. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure season 15 will be fine. Everybody will be fine. All right, guys. Goodbye.
I'm trying to think if there's any other questions that we haven't addressed.
I was going to say the only other bit that I really enjoyed was when we had to go to an insane asylum, and it was me being like, guys, this is going to be crazy, but you know what? I think actually, how about I go up and say that I'm having mental difficulties, and then just to be able to have a bit of Gormo is completely mentally broken in a lot of ways, and just have him sit down with the doctor, and the doctor just be like, oh my God.
Yeah, that was fun because this adventure was a sandbox. This is the most sandboxy thing I think we've done on the show, at least
Probably.
more so that I've run, certainly, but it was definitely open-ended in that there were multiple routes
I would say the only other one that was a sandboxy was probably season 4 with the carnival. When you guys were just kind of just wandering around.
That was a very open world game, actually. But this one was there were 2 routes you could have taken. They were both pretty open. There were a lot of possibilities, and the asylum was just an open box. You just go anywhere you want to in the asylum, do whatever you want. And I'm so glad someone decided to sneak in, or not sneak in, but
play the bit of I'm here because I'm crazy.
check themselves in, because it looked like you guys were not going to do that. And I was like, oh well, that's fine. They don't have to. And then you guys came up on the idea on your own. And I was like, yay, and it's Gormo, yay.
This bit will work.
But the problem is that intellect devourers can sense any creatures that have intelligence around them.
And
So-
Stu was tiny at that point.
Even though, you could make the case that because his intelligence becomes the intelligence of a fly, like maybe he wouldn't register as that, but I'm
But
thinking
he was still thinking as Stu.
That's the thing, is like,
that's why he would still register that intelligence.
I'm still feeling like he would still have enough intelligence to be listening and following Gormo, and that in and of itself is like, well, you're not a housefly. Also, he can read your mind.
Yeah.
And you're not thinking about, I think they can read minds, but they certainly can detect.
And I mean, even if it wasn't for Gormo, because he might have, I mean, in that scene, he was really invested in his own thoughts.
Yeah.
In that dialogue. But I mean, a fly with an intelligence of 8, that's not a fly. Like,
Right. Or I think technically he still would have had the intelligence of 1, but the idea that he would probably read as, this is a sentient creature, because it has agenda. It's just also like, well, this is just more fun to have him be like, oh, here's this creepy psychologist who knows that you brought someone with you.
Uh-oh.
Because they can register. And that paid off later when the orderlies could detect the very, very stealthed characters and be like, look, they're very psychic.
Yeah,
they're very psychic.
Like, even beyond like Daredevil vision, you can't really hide from them.
Yeah, they follow your brains.
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 Well, very fun, Mike. That was an awesome adventure. And
Thank you, sir.
Great kickoff for Gormo Adventure 2. So now, guys, thanks for joining us.
And we'll see you guys in season 15 of the Velvet League.
Yeah, we'll see what happens when Gormo and Ysolde were away. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. We'll be back next week for a brand new season with special guest star Ika Darville. Ika is an actor best known for his work on Empire and Marvel's Jessica Jones. And he'll also be appearing in Marvel's Defenders miniseries for Netflix when that premieres later this year. We hope you'll come back and join us for that episode next Friday. It's going to be a ton of fun. You can follow Hillary Levi on Twitter at Hillary Levi. You can follow Daniel on Twitter at LOTR_Dan. You can follow Mike on Twitter at SuperGeekMike. You can also read his articles every Tuesday and Thursday on partialarc.com. This episode included music by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. You can find the track listing and credits in the show notes. Photos and character art can be found in the show notes on partialarc.com. And while you're there, why not check out some of our other podcasts, including Because Comics, where Mike Christensen and I talk about the weird and wacky stories of comic books. If you have any questions about the show, you can email us at FridayNightQuests@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr, all under the handle Partial Arc. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the battlefield.
Yeah, I'm gonna lose the body.
So, how much experience do we get?
Well, now we have a skeleton army, so that's pretty neat.